Hey there, and welcome back. Today, we're modeling a clean, professional, and production-ready Pokéball from scratch. I'll guide you step by step, sharing not only the tools I use, but also my thought process while approaching certain models, so that you can not only understand the how, but also the why. So let's hit the ground running and dive into creating this iconic piece of pop culture. The reason I picked this little reference that I have right up here in the right corner is because I actually saw this while I was scouring the internet for something cool to model. And what I found cool about it is this Pokeball was actually made by someone in real life. And I really like the design, it feels very grounded. And I just thought it would be fun to model. So let's go ahead and dive right in. So the first thing I would like to do, and I think that's what any modeler should do when they start off, is bring in your reference, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna press spacebar, come over here to my front view, and I'm gonna go to View, Image Plane, and Import Image. From here, I drop this reference of the Pokeball in my source images folder. I'm just gonna pick it up from there. And now we have our reference image in our scene. Now, what you'll notice is this Pokeball is a little different than this one, and it doesn't really matter in this case because this is just the one that I'm using to get the proportions right. And what I liked about this reference is that it's from the front view, so it's gonna make things easier. Now, I like to start off with a primitive shape that matches the shape of the object that I'm going to model, and in this case that seems to be a sphere. So I just started off with the basic sphere, and I'm going to press E to rotate, and let's come back to our perspective view, and I'm just going to hold J and rotate it, and J allows me to snap in degree increments while I rotate it. The reason I rotated it was so that I can get this loop of faces to match up with this circular button right here in the middle of the Pokeball. Now, normally, I think most people would just go ahead and work with the sphere as is, but I think we need to do some cleanup because these tries are not the best to work with. So the first thing I'm going to do is get a segment where this black portion of the Pokeball starts. And to do that, I'm going to pick the multi-cut tool from right up here, and we can click once on one side of the object, hold shift and click again on the other side, and if you don't leave, that multi-cut is gonna snap. Now what's cool about this is once it snaps, you can leave all your buttons and you can actually zoom in, zoom out, pan, and move your multi-cut into place or move your cut into place after actually making the cut, which I think is pretty cool. From there, you can just press right click to finalize that cut, and now we have added this new cut in the place where this black portion starts. So now if I go back to my front view, I can get rid of everything else above the portion that we just cut. And the reason I deleted the bottom is because the top of the Pokeball and the bottom is pretty much the same, which means I could essentially just model the top and duplicate it and get the bottom as well. Now at this point, we know at the front, I probably get to delete all of this. So that's just gonna make life easier for me. So we got rid of all of that stuff in the front, but then the back, I am going to end up with a couple of tries, okay? So you can see we have a try here, and one here. And we also have a few of these weird faces, which have come from the fact of me just chopping off this object from some random portion. So you can see I have a couple of weird stray faces and stray words. And the easiest way to solve this is just selecting, going to vertex mode, selecting all the vertices and just going shift right click, merge vertices. And you can see all the stray verts have now been merged. And this is good if you want to merge a lot of words that are close together. If you want to merge things that are further apart, you can just slide on the distance threshold just to increase that area of effect. But what we had earlier was good for what we want to do, and we're good to go. Now, this first try is going to be easy to clean. All I need to do is delete this edge. And now I have a quad, so 2, 3, 4 edges. Also, while I'm working on this, I'll probably turn on symmetry. So just up here, symmetry, world X, because X is the axis that we want to symmetrize on. So you can see the red line that says X here at the bottom. It goes from left to right or right to left. And in this case, that is the axis that we want to mirror on. Now, first triangle solved. Second one is going to be even easier to solve actually, because all I got to do is delete this one edge. Shift right click, delete. And I'm going to run this edge straight into this triangle. Now you might be like, well, that's still a triangle. Well, not really. Keep in mind that we're going to subdivide this model. So if I press 3 to subdivide, we can see that that is not a triangle anymore, right? It's four-sided, it's a quad, and it's going to smooth out properly. Just for peace of mind, if it helps you make this a little visually pleasing as well, we can just move this vertex, and what you can see me doing is I'm sliding it. So if you see, if I just move something like this, I am going to break the surface, I'm going to break the silhouette, right? But if I hold Control and Shift, you can see when I hover over the manipulator, it says slide. And once that's on, I can just move my vertex and it's not going to break my silhouette. So I think that's pretty good for what I want to do right now. And I think that's looking pretty okay. It's all quadded up and we have the front looking fine as well. The next thing I'm going to do is try to get the bottom of this. So just need to duplicate this, Control D, and hold J again to rotate it in increments, and we get it right at the bottom. The reason we got this perfect gap in the middle was because the pivot of our object was at the center, right? So the object just rotated around that center, and now we have this perfect gap in the middle as well. I always think this is the best way to think about things, but when you're modeling, always try to model things flat or without thickness and add the thickness later, right? Because that's basically the only difference between a 2D object and a 3D object is the thickness or the extrusion. So now that we've completely got the piece, we have all our topology ready, I'm just going to go shift right click, combine these objects into the same one. And with the whole object selected, I'm just going to go Control E to extrude. And let's just give this some thickness. So I don't want to make it too thick, so I'm just sliding on the thickness to give it a little bit of thickness. And if I come up here in the front and turn off my X-ray view, I can play with the offset to get like this nice beveled effect at the corner as well. Although I think I'm okay with it being flat in this case, so I'm just going to leave it as is. Now that we've done that, the last thing we need to do to finalize this piece is go ahead and finish up our bevels, okay? So what I'm gonna do is select all these edge loops. And you can see I still have my symmetry on, making it much quicker for these selections. Select all the edges that I want to keep sharp at the same time. Got to do this at the back as well. I'm good to go. Let's just go shift right click, bevel edge, add 2 segments. 2 segments is, I think, king in most cases, because if I do a single segment, I get a triangle at the corner, but the moment I switch this to 2 segments, I get nice quads, okay? Now, I'm just going to play with the fraction to get the correct kind of highlight that I'm looking for. And one thing I just noticed, which is not very pretty, is that I forgot to space this edge out a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to select this edge loop and press W, and just while holding Control and Shift, just slide it up a little bit. Okay. This is going to give me a little bit of that nicer, smooth highlight rather than this kind of sharp one that we had going on here. Okay. And now that I have that, let's just go back and make sure it's nice and tidy. Maybe move this word up as well. And you can see I'm being a little picky about things, but that's just the way I am when it comes to my topology sometimes. So now I can just duplicate this again, go mesh, combine. And with that, we have our main piece done. Now that we have this piece done, the next thing we need to do is get this inner portion, which is the black material. So very easily, I can just create a new sphere. It doesn't matter too much what the topology on this one is going to be, because I don't think we're actually going to see it. So I can just put this up here. Let's press 3, and that's smooth as well. And now comes the part for the button. Okay, so the button, I think I'm gonna do it in 3 parts, even though I think commonly we would think to do the whole button as a single piece. But the way I look at it is the outer shell, the inner button, and then this ring of light, right? So it would be hard to get that ring of light in the texturing process if it was part of the same object. So now I'm gonna start with the cylinder. Let's just rotate it with J again to snap. Let's bring it out here and scale it to get an approximate size of the button. You can see again I'm deviating from the reference in the back here because the one that I'm following more is this one. And once I've reached and gotten the correct size, I'm just going to come here to my channel box, and in the inputs I'm just going to reduce the subdivisions on the axis to something like 12, which is a little more manageable. The reason I do this is because this button or the shape is obviously smaller than the outside, right? Which means it probably does not need as many subdivisions. Let's just get rid of these edges and let's just clean up once again, just by doing some extra cutting. Now that we have that, I just deleted the rest of it so that I can extrude this one with the clean topology, get the thickness, and move that in here. Now, what I can see is that right here at the front, it kind of scales inward. And for that, I'm just going to turn off my symmetry and let's scale this inward, something like that. Okay. This feels pretty okay to me. And it doesn't matter if a little of our object is showing from behind, because the other button is going to come in this area and we're not going to see this. So one thing I really like to do when I'm modeling to save time is repurpose and reuse faces or portions of the model. So in this case, I can just take these faces, go shift right click, duplicate face. And now this is going to be the button. So let's scale this to get the approximate size of the button. Extrude this. Maybe it's like that thick. Maybe we can scale it down slightly and crash it in here. So now we have the button and we have the outer rim. We just need the space for this light. And for that, what I'm going to do is just select my faces, extrude, and just even press R and scale it inward. Push it back a little bit. Okay, and I think something like that is good. Now, so we have the outer rim, we have the middle, and we need to get the light, right? So again, just going to repurpose this, shift right click, duplicate faces. Take this piece of geo, crash it in, center the pivot, and just scale it up until it covers that area. Okay, I think this could come out a little more, something like that. I think we're good to go. Last thing we need to do, again, as always, is bevels. So For this, just to make things faster, I'll show you guys another technique that I like to use when beveling is you can select a face loop, and if you hold Control and right click, that brings up your quick selection menu, and from here you can switch your selections from faces to edges to edge parameter. Okay, so in the same way, what I would do is maybe something like that to edge parameter, select this. Actually, yeah, we might have to select some edges anyway, but that's still a little faster in this case. Get those bevels in, that's looking good. Let's do the same thing for this button. Let's select this edge loop, face loop, go to edges, bevel it. So it seems like there's something a little off here, and usually I think we can fix it just by merging the vertices and making sure that there is no kind of stray geo going on there. Let's try this again. Yeah, so it worked fine now. There was probably just something a little off with the geo before. And that is looking pretty nice. Okay, so I think the last thing I might want to change is this outer ring. I think it's a little small. I think it would look better if it was a little bigger. So let's just scale that up a little more, spread it out a bit. Yeah, I think I like that a little more. Again, sometimes you'll find me taking a little bit of artistic liberty where designing is concerned, or at least modeling certain pieces. And I think that's okay. It's good to add some of your personality to your models, especially when it's not for production, right? You're just doing this as a personal project. That's totally fine. Have fun with it. So now I'm just going to make sure that this is not crashing all the way and we're getting the nice highlight. And with this, my Pokéball is pretty much done. I think the last thing I want to do is just take these faces and extrude them, scale them inward. The reason you'll find me doing this is because if we did not do that and we press 3, you can see that this outer rim or the outer edge is not even, okay, because of how these faces are pulling inward. So just selecting those faces and extruding them inward can give us some nice buffer space towards the outside and can make your edges and highlights look much cleaner. Let's take a look at the topology on this. Looking pretty good to me. Those tries are not amazing, but I don't think we really need to clean them up at this point. The last thing I think we can do is just pull this out a little bit to again get a little bit of that nice highlight around the rim. And that's pretty much it. So thanks for hanging out with me as we model this Pokéball. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up and share your thoughts or questions in the comments. And if you do decide to model a Pokéball of your own, I'd love to see your progress. So share your work and tag me on Instagram at mesh_labs. Next up, we'll take this model through the UV unwrapping process, so don't miss it. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications to join me for the next step in the series. See you next time.